Hi guys, this is going to be the first part of a sort of introductory series. I know it's been quite a while since I first started making videos, and I did sort of try in the beginning to give an outline of the basics of my spiritual practice and that kind of thing, but I thought that maybe it might be a nice idea to make a couple of slightly shorter videos and videos that are maybe more succinct and to the point, just to give a kind of outline of what my spirituality actually looks like, and to sort of combine in one series all of the major aspects of my practice and my beliefs and everything, just to sort of give a general overview of what it is that I do, what it is that I believe, and how it all actually fits together. So this first video is going to be a bit of a mishmash. It's just going to give you an idea of the areas that I'm going to cover in later videos, and just also to give you a bit of a, maybe not quite a soundbite, something a little bit longer than that, but something a bit more brief and succinct as to what my spirituality actually is and looks like in terms of both orthopraxy and orthodoxy. Generally, I identify as a naturalistic pantheistic pagan. But for the purposes of this video and when describing my spiritual practice or my spiritual beliefs generally, I think the term pantheistic pagan is probably sufficient. And I will get into that in another video. I will talk about the word naturalism, what it means to me, what it has meant to me, and why I feel as though maybe it's not always completely necessary when describing my spirituality. So pantheistic paganism, to an extent there are two different components to my spirituality, to some extent. You could say that it's influenced primarily by two different modes of thought. And for me, the pantheism aspect of it, it incorporates the naturalism. But like I said, I will make another video on naturalism. I'm not really going to go into it right now. So pantheism is basically the belief that everything is divine, or that the divine is the universe or the cosmos. Basically what's going on with that is that you are conflating the divine or the idea of divinity with the universe or the cosmos or everything that is in existence. So this is quite different to quite a lot of other theistic beliefs where God or divinity is considered divine because it is transcendent, because it is something greater than the universe, or something outside of the universe, or some force that is driving the universe. But what I find probably most awe-inspiring and divine, I suppose, about the universe is that, to me, as far as I believe, it is creating itself, or at the very least, it is perpetuating itself. We don't know, obviously, how the universe came about. We can't know that, not currently within the limits of current science. We can only go back as far as what we call the Big Bang, and even that, you know, is quite tenuous. We don't know what happened before then. We don't know what caused it. But in my belief, there was no external guiding hand, so to speak. The universe came into being, or already was in being, and kind of flared forth entirely through its own creative force or its own creative energy. And that might sound a bit reductive or a bit unmagical or unexciting, but actually it's extremely exciting, because if you think about it, if there's no external force, then the universe itself that we live in, and we ourselves as part of that universe, we are part of this amazing, unbelievable creative force that has just seemingly out of nothing, brought to being everything that we can now see around us in the universe, on Earth, and ourselves and our very consciousness. So pantheism for me is not just a label that means that the all is equal to the divine, or whatever, you know, that God is everything. Pantheism for me also taps into some of the things that connect me most to the feeling of reverence and awe, and it also connects me to things like science and understanding the universe better, because for me, understanding more about this physical manifestation of existence that we are experiencing. That to me is highly spiritual, because to me I feel that the all, the cosmos, everything we are experiencing, I feel as though it is in some way divine. The reason I say it's divine is because it is not completely understood. It is because for me, I feel as though the universe is on some level conscious, that there is some level of consciousness. We are conscious, therefore the universe is conscious, and how exactly that works, of course, I don't know, I don't understand. And everything is connected. And these sort of feelings and these beliefs all kind of come together for me to evoke a feeling of great reverence, and a feeling that the universe is worthy of this reverence, and worthy of being foremost in our thoughts, of being celebrated. So paganism for me is more about the practice rather than the beliefs aspect for me. Pantheism is my belief. Paganism is what I do about that belief. And paganism for me, it encompasses nature-based spirituality. And it also encompasses a sort of form of polytheism. Now, I do not consider myself to be a polytheist. I don't use that word because I associate the word polytheist mostly with hard polytheists or devotional polytheists. People who believe in sort of separate sentient entities that are gods. And it can be kind of hard to make the distinction between how I see gods, how they see gods. And sometimes I think it's very fluid, and really there isn't as much difference as you might think between one person's belief and another. But I generally don't use the word polytheist, despite the fact that I do work with different deities, and they are very much a part of my practice. So different deities for me they are several things. They are, first of all, they are part of my collective unconscious, my personal unconscious. They are things that spring up out of archetypes in my unconscious. And they are sort of symbols and metaphors that my mind produces out of those deep archetypes. And if you're interested, if you don't know what that means, I would very much suggest that you Google it. There's quite a lot of basic information, at least online, about what archetypes are, or what Jung understood them to be, because Jungian thought is something that is important to me as well. But again, I will make a video on that within this series. So the gods to me are archetypes, and they are in some way a product of my conscious mind, but that product is springing out of something much deeper in my unconscious mind that I don't have any control over. But also to me, the gods are external to my physical self. The gods to me are very basic aspects of the universe and of the cosmos. They're like facets of the whole. And they are, and the unconscious archetypes, I feel, are the connections between my unconscious mind and the rest of the world. It's a little bit difficult to go into in just one video like this, and again, I will make a whole video on that in time. So basically, for me, deities are quite complex, and my polytheism, if you want to use that word, is quite complex. But also for me, obviously as a pantheist, the gods are not necessarily divine figures in their own right. They are facets of the all, that is the divine all, the divine cosmos. They are, for me, different ways of looking at the divine. And I have talked about this in other videos if you're interested in going and looking at some of them if you haven't seen them already. So I think that probably pretty much covers how paganism has influenced maybe my beliefs or the basics of my practice. The Wheel of the Year is another major one for me that I have been working with for a very long time. And that's where the sort of nature-based spirituality aspect comes into it for me. So I follow the Wheel of the Year, which is basically the same Wheel of the Year that Wiccans follow. Most neo-pagans, generally speaking, follow the same wheel. But for me, it's also, it is largely based on festivals and points on the year that are celebrated or have been traditionally celebrated in Ireland. And the only ones that I think there is no evidence that were ever celebrated were the two equinoxes. So the 8 spokes of the wheel of the year are the 2 solstices, the 2 equinoxes, and then there are 4 what Americans tend to call cross quarters, but here in Ireland the cross quarters are actually when the seasons change. So for us spring starts at the beginning of February, etc., all the way around. For me, basically, it's just celebrating the new season at those times, and then at the solstices and equinoxes, I'm celebrating midwinter, midsummer, mid-autumn, and mid-spring. And for me, following that wheel of the year is extremely important. Obviously, as a pantheist, if for me the divine is the cosmos, it's the experience of cosmos, it's the creativity of it, it's the processes of it. So it's very, very important for me to really tap into those basic manifestations of that creative force, of that balance, of that change that we experience on Earth. It's very important for me to really get to grips with everything that's happening around me and to really pay attention to what's happening with the Earth going around the sun and the balances and the sort of themes of life and death and rebirth that we get when we look at that wheel of the year. Because obviously as we go into spring we have rebirth, and then summer we have the blooming and blossoming forth and dying off again in autumn, and then the kind of cold dark abyss of sort of the unmanifest creativity in the winter. And that again is something that I will talk about more. So I think that's probably most of what I wanted to say in this video. I really just wanted to give an outline. I will also say that I do ritual as my major way of connecting to the divine and celebrating the divine. And ritual for me happens on the days of the wheel of the year. And I also tend to do ritual on the full moon and the dark moon, or the new moon, whichever term you prefer to use. Just primarily because it's another cycle that I like to get in touch with. It's something observable on Earth, and it just sets a pattern then for repeated practice. As well as those kind of major rituals that I do have a daily practice, and my daily practice is kind of twofold. It involves tarot, where I draw a tarot card in the morning, and this time is also a time for me where I connect to who you could call my matron deity, the Morrigan. I don't really use that term, but she is the most important deity for me in my practice. And I use that time to sort of draw a card and do some intention setting for the day. And then I do another short meditation if I have the time. Well, maybe 20 minutes if I can get it in the evening. And I will also often do a little sort of devotional to the Morrigan again at that time, or to another deity. And that is daily as much as possible. Obviously it's not always possible to keep up with those sort of daily practice things when life sort of gets in the way. But it's something that I strive towards because it makes me feel more connected. So that might give you an idea, a sort of brief enough overview of what my spirituality actually looks like. I just wanted to sort of amalgamate it all into one video, so that if you're curious, if you want to learn more but you don't really know which video to start with, that you can come here and just sort of get an idea of my beliefs and my practices and how it all kind of fits together at this time at the moment anyway. It's always changing, it's always evolving, but most of those core components I think are probably there to stay and have them there for quite a while. Thanks for watching guys, much love.